right, so welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be looking at a specific area of Education City, and that is the grouping function. Now, how that can help you with differentiation, intervention groups, also when you're setting work or you're looking at sort of data from those groups as well. So that is going to be our predominant port of call for this afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to join me. I do hope everybody is well and staying safe. So as I mentioned, we've not really got an agenda because it will be predominantly that grouping function. So instead, we're going to head straight into Education City. But just before I do, as always, the account I'm using is a made-up school. So any names that you will see, student or teacher, they are all made up. So don't worry about any of those. The data that you will see is also made up just for viewing purposes. And it is also an English school, but if you're joining today from outside of England, I will point out to you any differences that you might see in your Education City account. Finally, any questions that you have for me, I really do look forward to hearing your questions. You'll notice on your tab bar, there is a Q&A button. If you click into that, what that enables you to do is to ask a question that will ping up on my screen. You can also click to ask a question anonymously using that function as well, and I can answer those for you as quickly as I can. We do obviously have our Q&A function. They say everything, making sure that you can all hear me okay. Excellent. Just be aware that if you do type a question into the Q&A function, into the chat function, it won't appear on my screen, so I won't get around to that as quickly as I would the Q&A button. Right, all of that said, let's head into Education City and we can get started. And here we are logged into my account. Now, the first thing is obviously the grouping function is set in the users area. So you can see the little teacher student icon just there. We click on there. One of the most important things on Education City is making sure that your student users are set up. This means that classes will be set up and you can then sort of allocate work to students and create those groups in the first instance. There's a couple of ways of doing that in the students. The main way is via the upload and edit button just here. You can click on that, you can upload a CSV file, you can paste in the data. As long as it's in that order below, you can upload all your students in that way. There are a couple of webinars that will talk you through this, but remember, you can always get in touch with us. We would be more than happy to help you along that journey. There we go. So the area we're looking at is at the end here, the groups function. This enables you to create different groups across the school. Now, a couple of benefits of this: you may have used Education City groups before, you may be using them currently, you may have never used them. So a couple of the benefits. Number one is that all groups created by all of your colleagues will be available to view on this page. And that means that if, for instance, you're working with a year partner, you can use each other's groups for focus groups, intervention groups, TAs, LSAs, one-to-one support can log on here and use those groups that you have created. Also, because you can create groups outside of your classroom, you can see here I've got a couple of house groups, year 1 and year 3, year 4 just there. We can create pupil premium groups. We can create school gifted and talented or SEND groups across the whole school. And then this is something that those leaders, the SLT members, SEND coordinators, can look at the data for those groups within the tracking area. And that's not it. You can look for free school meal students. You can look for, you can create those groups of students for, maybe those students who have been off work, been off school for a while, who need that extra support. You can create groups if you are, say, the maths coordinator like I used to be. You can create a random group of random students from across the school and then monitor them as part of your sort of curriculum coordinator process. So it really is it's limitless. It really is limitless, the amount of things you can do with these groups. So let's show you how to do those. Add group just here, really, really easy to do. A quick tip of mine is to always pop in your initials or your school year group or your class name at the beginning of the group name. Everything gets listed alphabetically, so it just means that your groups are easier to locate. And this one might be something like time intervention. Maybe for those students who have hit a particular year group and can't yet tell the time and I want them to work with my teaching assistant, my learning support assistant, to build up their knowledge in that area. Obviously, these can be useful whatever you need them for. And if I'm working with a year partner, maybe he or she has got a couple of students in their class who need that support as well. So we can pop all those students together into that one group. And we can search for students by their name. So if I search for Henry here he is just there. I can click in the box next to his name and move him over into that group. Or if I am looking for my year group, I can type in the year group name or the class name as it appears just here. And then you can see you've got those students available. So I'm going to select a couple of those students in this year group. I'm just going to select the box next to their names like so. There we go, a couple of those students, and we're going to move them over. Obviously, you will have a bit more of like a list already formulated that you can choose those students after you've selected a random few. And if, for instance, let's say Leah comes back in the new term and she's learnt to tell the time and she can do it like that, we can remove her from the group. That's not a problem. Same process, select the box next to their name and remove. And then you've got the notes function. This is so useful because it reminds you why you've created the group. So this might be telling the time intervention. It could be for the students who maybe didn't pass the phonics screen check, having a bit of a booster group for those, or it could even be your gifted and talented maths students who need that extra depth, that sort of push into that extra depth mastery area. And you can create these notes. Students won't see these, parents won't see these. These are just for educator purposes. And let me show you, if I just save that just there and click on OK, we can have a look here and we can see just here telling the time intervention. And if I want to edit this group in any way, I can click into it. I can change certain things. I can save. I can move students around. And you can update these groups. I do recommend maybe once or twice a year having a bit of a spring clean over here and updating those groups. But again, what's really beneficial is because all educators can see these groups. My students from year 4 going into year 5, the teacher can look at these and their new year 5 teacher can look at these and go, okay, these are the groups from the higher ability, these are the groups from the middle ability, these are the groups from the lower ability, and these are the gifted and talented in that particular area. And they can look at these groups, and if they wanted to take control of them, click in, edit the name, and save it for the new academic year. And like I said, that grouping function does come in so handy. One of the main uses is obviously in the folder area, the My City area, where you can allocate work to a group. Now, if you've got a great LSA or a TA that works with sort of intervention groups or focus groups, they can come in, they can build these folders up. I've got my example already created with my resources in it, and they can head straight to the students find those groups that we've created. And if we have a look down here, we've got all of these groups. Time intervention, that's the one I've just created. Add those in, and this is something that sort of teaching assistants, learning support assistants, one-to-one support, they can all do this as long as they have that Education City login. They can come in, they can use those groups that you have created as a teacher and sort of build up the learning and the knowledge for those individual groups. And this is going to be so important in the next academic year for those students who will have sort of staying different gaps in different areas. They'll have so many strengths in so many areas as well, but this is a great way of just filling in all those little gaps here, there and everywhere. So in addition to that, I mentioned earlier about your SEND pupils, your gifted and talented pupils, and even being a curriculum coordinator. What you can do is you can have a look in the scores and reports, head straight into the student scores just here, and you can have a look for a term or half term, an academic year for that group of students that you've put together. So I'm just going to have a look for those time intervention students. There they all are. But imagine this was my curriculum coordinator group. I can click on go and I can see what those pupils have completed. I can also have a look at the scores that they've gotten and have a look at any objectives that they've completed by editing the columns and looking at curriculum objectives just there. We can see now if I scroll across any objectives that have been fulfilled. And this is my random pick of students from across the school. I'm able to view where they are in this particular subject area. So we can even change that and just look at maths, update that information. There we go. But it's really, really useful. You've got this data. You can export this data to an Excel spreadsheet to create charts and pie graphs, whatever you want from this data. And same goes if it's not just for this focus group or this particular curriculum coordinator group. We can have a look for my medium ability students, middle ability students, my what I just used to call my ability students just there, or even our higher ability students or SEND student. We can have a look at those students using that group function just there as well. As always, if you need us for anything, little question mark in the top right hand corner there, that will give you our telephone number and email address. And we do have the help centre on the right hand side that will talk you through any processes, including how to create a group just there as well, give you a bit of an insight. Has anybody got any questions on any of those areas at all? Just while I'm looking to see if anything gets typed in, a couple of the FAQs that we get asked, and I may have already answered these already, but number one, can I share my groups? No, there's no need to. Education City is all about saving you time. So you don't have to share the groups because they are open to everyone. Can students see the groups I've put them in? No, they cannot. Only educators who have that educator login on Education City, so that's a teacher or an administrator login, will be able to see those groups and will be able to use those groups as well. And that answered that last question there, who can use my groups? So if you do have an learning support assistant, teaching assistant, or sort of a one-to-one support assistant, I highly recommend that you get them an Education City account on your subscription. It will make your life so much easier. Plus it means that they can, do their interventions, their focus groups, their sort of reading comprehension groups, whatever they do, automatically. It is done, already done without worrying you. Well, if you do think of any questions at any point, you can always get in touch with us. Our email address just there, customerservice@educationcity.com. That's customerservice@educationcity.com. any questions that you have about anything I've mentioned in this webinar, or about any other areas of Education City, any feedback that you have for us, or even any success stories. We really do love to hear from you. Just checking we've got no more questions in there. Not to worry. I do hope to see you at future webinars. Until those, do take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.